About a month or two ago, I got to go and see Tom Brady live, in person, in the flesh, and it was the most amazing experience ever. You could literally feel the power in his presence. You know how some people come into the room and they command the room? You can feel it's palpable. That's how it was sitting, listening to Tom Brady. I'm so glad that I got to have that experience being around one of the greatest leaders, one of the greatest success stories of all time. And that's what we're going to dive in today, is his 10-part series called Man in the Arena, Tom Brady. Now, I have three takeaways from this series that I actually watched the 10-part series before I watched him in person, and it was really good because it captured his entire life, and he had so many areas of his life. So point number one is that nobody ever thought he was going to be anything special in his life. In the interview I was at in person, he actually went through step by step his entire life story. And if you want to watch that in-person interview, I'd recommend after this video, go ahead. I'll put the link below. It was an incredible interview. But basically, nobody ever thought he was going to be anything special. In high school, he said that he was a backup quarterback. He started playing football, just flag football growing up, but never played tackle football until he was a I believe freshman or sophomore in high school. So he never had that experience. And he went in as a sophomore, and he was the backup quarterback to an 0-10 team. He's like, think about that for a second. I wasn't even good enough to be on the field for a team that couldn't even win a game. You know, you're not even winning a game and they still don't put you on the field. How bad do you have to be in order to be in that position? Well, the next season, the team was so bad that the starting quarterback quit so he could go and play basketball. And Tom Brady's like, okay, I guess I'm the quarterback. They played, they got better that season. They had a good high school season, good enough so that he could go to, he had a couple different options of what school he could go to. He ended up deciding to go to Michigan. Well, when he went to Michigan, there were several other quarterbacks that were really good there. He was actually the 5th string quarterback at Michigan, and he worked his way up. His senior year, his senior year of college, he is him and this other quarterback are going back and forth for like the first 6 games. He's playing one quarter, the other guy's playing another quarter, and they're switching off for the entire 6 games. It's not like he was the protege playing all 4 seasons. Like you see, he was still like switching off his final year in college. Well, he goes in and he wants to be drafted in the NFL and ends up getting picked 192nd. He almost didn't even get drafted. That's how not necessarily bad, but nobody thought he was anything special. And so he ends up getting drafted by the New England Patriots, and the Patriots, they have a quarterback named Drew Bledsoe, who is the #1 quarterback in the league. And he just signed a 10-year contract. I believe it was for like $150 million. You'd have to check me on that. But it was the highest paid contract in the history of the NFL at that point. So 10 years, and he just barely signed it. So Tom Brady's like, yeah, I'm never gonna see the field. This isn't. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I'm behind the #1 quarterback in the league. So he's the backup his entire first season. At the beginning of the second season, the first game, I think it was in the preseason, or it could have been the first game, Drew Bledsoe ends up getting hurt. I think he hurt his shoulder or something. And it wasn't anything serious. He didn't break it, but he was just kind of out. Tom Brady comes in and plays like 3 or 4 games and actually does pretty good, you know. And Drew Bledsoe comes back. He's like, okay, I'm 100% healthy. I'm good to go. And Bill Belichick says, nope, we're going to stick with Tom Brady. What? You just signed this guy for, it's like having a Peyton Manning on your team. I mean, you have the best quarterback in the league, and you're saying, no, after seeing 3 or 4 games of this backup who we draft 192nd, we're gonna sit you and we're gonna go with this other quarterback. And Drew Bledsoe was like, what? And he didn't. After that point, there was for sure hardship and stuff like that, but every single season he was able to start after that point. So it wasn't just roses and the seas parted and from high school he was a protege. No, he had tons of struggles throughout his entire career. Point number 2 is that he won 7 Super Bowls, set the record, but he also lost 3. So he played 23 seasons, and out of those 23 seasons, he went to 10 Super Bowls. That's crazy. Almost every other year, basically, he was going to a Super Bowl. And I think a lot of people look at, oh, wow, 7 Super Bowls. That's incredible, which I think it is. But the point that it got me interested in the documentary was seeing that he still lost 3 Super Bowls, and they were super close. And he said that the losses were actually harder to take than the wins were to celebrate. You know, they impacted him more than the wins did. And it was interesting to see that even though he was the most winning quarterback of all time as far as Super Bowls go, and they say the greatest football player ever to live, he still had 3 losses in the Super Bowl that were gut-wrenching. I don't know. I remember watching the probably the most famous one, which was against the New York Giants, and had that crazy pass on the guy's head. And the documentary does an amazing job going through the emotional feel and how he feels afterwards and how he overcomes it. So it's a really solid series. But that's point number 2. Point number 3 is that he honestly is one of the most incredible leaders. Like I was saying, when I went watching the series, but then going and seeing him in person, you could feel that presence, feel that leadership, and that love for people. And he actually said in person, he said this quote that I won't forget. He said, leadership is caring. If you care about your people, then you will do whatever is necessary to help them out. And if they know that you care about them, then they'll sacrifice whatever they need to. But if they don't feel like you have their best interest in mind, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they do, because they know that ultimately it's just about yourself. But if you care about them and their success and you want them to succeed, and have the accolades and things like that, then they'll give 110% for you, because they know that it's a team effort. It's not just a one-man show, you know? Another quote that he said was, what you know is limited, what you know is limitless. Sharing things like that with your team motivates them. It inspires them. And there are many other instances in the documentary where he went through so many different players. I mean, he essentially had like 4 different teams, because they would win 3 Super Bowls and then they would lose a lot of their key players. And so they'd have to rebuild. They'd win 2 more Super Bowls and then they'd lose their key players, build again. And that happened probably 4 times. It shows throughout the documentary. And so he had to build these relationships. And that's why it's my belief that he's one of the most incredible leaders ever, because it's one thing to do that with one team, or let's say with one business. Like, anybody can have a successful business, but try duplicating it, having 2 and 3 and 4 and on after that. So those are my 3 takeaways. My challenge to you is watch the documentary. I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of it. It is a 10-part documentary. I think they're 50 to an hour, minute long videos. And so you might be like, oh, 10 hours, that's a long time. It honestly goes by fast, because it is so exciting. It's not just talking about the same things. Like, there are different trials that he overcomes And essentially each episode is about another Super Bowl and overcoming and getting to the Super Bowl, whether they win or lose that Super Bowl. So go ahead, watch the series below. And then number 2, watch one inspirational movie every single week. And I promise you that when you start doing this, and as you continue to watch these movies after 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, you're going to be so inspired that you're like, I can conquer the world. I can take on whatever. Tom Brady could do that. Bill Belichick could do that. I can do that. Okay? Until next time, guys, we'll see ya.